Hey guys, it's Tyler and welcome to the stream. It's my first stream in a very long time, so it's really cool to be back. Hope you enjoy watching. I am streaming on two platforms currently. We're streaming on YouTube and we're streaming on Twitch. So you can catch me in either place and maybe some other platforms in the future. Thinking about maybe doing something on Instagram, which I think would be cool. So again, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to try to do this every week at a similar time, and we'll have all those recorded and uploaded, so you might be watching the recording on YouTube. Please consider subscribing. I do have a fun little drawing guide that you can get for free if you subscribe to the YouTube. There's no music for the stream. I feel like everybody can kind of pick their own ambience. For me, when I'm drawing and getting creative, I'm really particular about what I'm listening to. So for me, I can hear stuff you can't. I got some thunderstorm sounds chilling in the background, and some light music going. So, choose your own adventure with your ambience there. But let's chill out and get creative together for a while. So what are we going to be drawing today? I'm going to be drawing Skeletor from Masters of the Universe. Definitely something that I love just in general from the nostalgia. But yeah, I think it's a really fun character. And we'll likely be doing other characters from that universe in the future as well. Right, so let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to mention before we got started? I guess one other thing, I'm not monetized on YouTube yet, only on Twitch. So if you do want to donate, you want to pop over to the Twitch channel for that, and then eventually we'll get YouTube going. And donations of $4 or more, you can opt to get a one-card tarot reading on stream. Not a digital one. I've got decks here. You'll see in the description there. I've got a few that I think are pretty fun. They're new to me, so we'll have to probably consult the manual to get everybody's reading on those. But that could be a fun little thing for us to explore. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and jump into some doodling here. Turn up my music in the background. All right, so let's see, Skeletor. I've got an image of Skeletor off of my other screen over here, so I can just make sure I get a sense of his overall outfit, because I do not draw him all the time. In fact, this might be the first time I'm ever drawing him, so we'll see how this goes. This is going to be a fun experiment. Let's get a general idea of maybe a pose that he could be in. And for these, I'm going to be doing it in a kind of a etching style or scratchboard style, so kind of a white on black treatment, which it's kind of cool. I don't always do this, and I feel like it keeps things kind of loose. I have a tendency to get really tight and detailed, so I have to have a process that sort of encourages a little bit of that looseness. Maybe some of you guys out there also feel like you get too detailed too quickly on stuff, and then you're making sure you have all the proportions and stuff figured out a little too late in the game. So let's not have that happen. Let's try to get a nice setup here for this guy. And Skeletor, he's kind of a bad dude. He's kind of a rude guy. He's kind of angry all the time. Does it seem like he's kind of frequently angry? I don't know. That's the kind of vibe I get. Scale this down. The joy of digital is we can tweak things a lot. I definitely encourage everybody to do some traditional art whenever you can, because it definitely works that skill set out. We can do, I feel like we'll have maybe his staff in his hand here, and then I guess we want to have room for his cool, like, he's got like a ram horn like a ram skull sort of staff thing going on. I don't want to have it facing the camera though. Facing the audience perfectly, because as you guys know, if you have something perpendicular to the viewer, it's going to feel flat, or I'm going to really struggle to make it feel dimensional, right? So I'm going to try to rotate everything at least a little bit 3/4. Go with something like that. Maybe we'll end up doing a bit of a Dutch angle on this, possibly. That might be kind of cool. It adds a bit of a dynamic twist to things. What a twist. And a lot of times I'll have like a multi-stage process where you're popping in something really simple like this, and then we'll kind of knock it back and start to draw on top with a little bit more detail. I should probably figure out what he's standing on. We don't want to be completely clueless on that. Maybe we'll have like some kind of a rocky a hill that he's standing on here. He's like having a power moment here up on this mountaintop, whatever it is. I think that could work. He's going to have his hood. He'll have some kind of like a loincloth sort of a thing. He's got his belt. What else does he have? He's got like a little leather like cross belt thing on his chest here. He's got an emblem. I think I will give him some like shoulder pads. It's gonna be my own take on it, right? Like we're gonna try to maybe spice it up a little bit, because if you go look at the old cartoon of him, he's kind of simple, right? It's an effective design. It's very iconic, but I mean, I think we can probably jazz it up a little bit here. And let's flip this and see how we're feeling with this from the other vantage point. Okay. Yeah. Block in position for that belt. He's also got a sword, right? Maybe we'll have the sword. Let's see. Let me turn on this little dynamic compositional grid here to get some thoughts. If you guys don't ever use compositional grids, they're really cool. I mean, you don't have to use them, but they can be helpful to getting some nice dynamics going on. So like if I'm trying to figure out a good flow for the cape, I might look at this diagonal here, and if the cape is coming out this way, I might use this diagonal here, right? So I think that's actually kind of helpful. But with the sword, though, that was sort of what we were trying to decide. Is I could put the sword there. That's kind of nice because it balances out the staff up there. So that might be a good spot for it. I'm going to want also some room for some magical stuff coming off of that staff. And then maybe I kind of want something dramatic behind him as well. So maybe we'll give him like a big set of doors back here, like a big gate. And then maybe there's like a big evil skull at the top of this gate back here. So like setting this up like this, what it does is it gets me figuring out all the major decisions, right? And then we can knock this back and I can almost kind of have more fun with it, right? I'm not really concerning myself with whether something is generally in the right place or not. If the composition is working, I can just get lost in the medium and small shapes, which is really where I have a lot of fun. So maybe we'll put that skull there. Maybe some kind of a big frame back here. And what we might do is we might find an opportunity to have, I'm thinking like it's a black and white, but maybe there's one accent color and maybe we choose the color that goes with the character most. So with this guy, obviously Skeletor, we might choose like a purple color. And maybe it just end up being his cloak that's purple and everything else is black and white. So that might be kind of a cool style for us to go with here. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I play with this leg a little bit here. I feel like that's a pretty good starting point. So what I want to do is I'm going to colorize this. We can even just use purple just because of who we're working with here. And I'm going to lower it down. And you guys probably will barely be able to see this, but I'll be able to see it pretty well on my end. And I just need a bit of visibility so that I can come in here and I can start to noodle on what will be the actual image. So now the interesting thing about a skull is that a skull is obviously not going to have any personality to it other than maybe the mouth might be cracked open, but we don't get any like brows furling, or certainly there's no eyebrows, there's no lids. So we might have to take some liberties. If you guys know the movie Jason and the Argonauts, the old one with effects of Ray Harryhausen, when he was doing the skeleton sequence, the famous one, right? You know, he had to make a creative choice to imply a sort of angry expression on the skulls of the enemies, because otherwise they didn't look mean enough. And it's funny how we're sort of confronted with a little bit of that challenge when we do somebody like a Skeletor. I mean, depending too, like there's variations of Skeletor. Obviously, like the movie Masters of the Universe, they did kind of a skull with flesh over it, you know, for obvious reasons. In a practical setting, that's going to work better. But yeah, we're not working with real actors here. We have options, so we have to consider those. I just realized I wasn't recording, so yeah, we're doing Skeletor here. I just did a quick block in underneath, and now we're actually working on the real version here. We'll figure out this emblem a little bit later. I don't want to get that detailed right now. Although I might just imply that there's a skull here, because I'm probably going to put a skull. I mean, it's Skeletor, right? He's got to have some skulls somewhere. I'm going to be tinkering with that face all throughout this process. I just am rarely satisfied with the face, so bear with me on that. This is why I like having that underdrawing, because I can kind of move things around and get them to adhere to that original idea. We never lose that composition. One of the things that I do is I sort of blur my vision or squint my eyes a little bit to see what the big read is. It's just a fast way for you to assess if what you're doing is reading correctly or not without having to zoom out as much or having to work far away from the piece. definitely want him to feel really strong, muscular, powerful. So in order to do that, we got to make sure that there's a good amount of muscle mass and then we have a good body language. It feels strong. I'm definitely going to give him some kind of bracers, some kind. The design, not sure yet, but they'll be there. There'll be something, and then we'll definitely want it on this one too. Something that feels aggressive. And then this hand, I think for this hand we'll do like we'll do something like that. I'll have that finger back there. Pull this in a little bit. It's going to have some kind of a fancy cloak going on. Kind of thinking almost like Spawn or something, right? Where Spawn's cape gets a little wild and crazy. I think that'd be kind of fun for Skeletor to have a little bit of a Spawn vibe to his cloak. And maybe the skull on his belt is a also an animal skull of some kind. So that'll kind of match his staff that we're going to do later. And now the cool thing is that we haven't even really gotten into refining any of this stuff yet, right? Like this is still just sort of figuring out the medium shapes. And then we can come in here and we can like, you know, zoom in and we can finesse the shading on all this stuff, and we're Really get it feeling cool. Yeah, he's got these like iconic, like almost like a gladiator thing going on. So maybe we'll do that, but we'll have a little bit of layering underneath it just to give it a little bit more flavor. And then I don't know that I want to put anything on the thighs because he's really awesome muscular thighs. So we'll just leave those without any armor going on. But I am thinking about some fancy boots. Maybe we get a skull on the front of those. That would be kind of cool. Considering how high up these should go, I think we'll go around the calf area, and perhaps there's some fur at the top. A little bit of that sort of like a barbarian vibe going on. Oh, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it, dude. Is the mic sounding okay? Just make sure I got like a decent volume going on. All right, thanks, man. I appreciate that. You start streaming, and there's like a million things to check, right, to make sure it's all gonna work okay. I'm using this multi-streaming thing in OBS, and it's my first time using that, and I launched the stream a few minutes early, and just to make sure everything was working, and the first thing it said is error. It just said error. It didn't do anything. And I thought, well, I guess that's it. It was a good try, everybody. GG. But I went in there and I kind of double checked everything, and I think I had maybe some fields that weren't filled in or something. So we got there. Let's check out our compositional guide here, see if we're getting any kind of ideas from this flow. I sort of have these lines baked into my brain, to be honest, but I like to just turn them on to just see them and kind of remind myself how it's going. The kind of nice thing about a setting where it's a natural terrain like this rocky piece here, is that you can really craft it to be the shape you want to suit the composition, right? Like we could make it pointier, we could make it rounder, we could make it wider, right? Like we really have a lot of freedom there to do what we need to for the comp. The same thing with the cape. There's a lot of different elements. Something that would be less flexible would be like his leg, right? Like sure we could move it, we could change the stance, but it just feels way more rigid, right, than something like a cape or a rocky piece. So I kind of try to leverage the flexibility we have with those elements of the piece. I'm gonna wait to put in the staff going down here because I don't want it to obscure the rest of the stuff that we're working on, but I think we could safely tinker with this staff head here. And I'm gonna kind of try to work from memory here with this ram skull. Oh, it's so cool, man. Thanks, Ryan. Ryan joining on YouTube there. Really appreciate it, dude. But yeah, like if you're going to try to draw something and you're not familiar with it, definitely get reference, right? Like there's no reason not to have reference up. I'm kind of winging a lot of this here. So basically don't do what I'm doing. Have some reference. Maybe future characters, maybe I'll pull up more reference for them. But yeah, this guy, I thought maybe we'll just kind of see what happens. I'm kind of curious how crazy we can get with this. Maybe we'll just go. I mean, then we got some options here with these horns, right? Like, let's see. No, that doesn't feel aggressive enough. We want it to feel kind of dangerous. So I think we want to go. Let's flip this. These sorts of things in perspective are always like, you got to kind of figure out how they're curving, right? Like it's a complex curve. And so how is it, bending and then we're also designing at the same time, right? So we can change our mind, but if we want to imply symmetry between this horn and this horn, well, it can't look janky, right? We got to make sure people understand that that's a symmetrical choice. And that's a general note about symmetry in design is it's got to be obvious. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to confuse the audience with it, right? Like asymmetry should be very loud and apparent. Otherwise it's going to just look like a mistake. And trust me, I say these things from having experienced these things the hard way. Oh, maybe there's like a cool gem on the top of the staff. Okay. I mean, I kind of like a lot of occult imagery and symbolism and like dark fantasy stuff. So I'm in my element with this kind of a character. Especially when I have freedom to kind of mess with their design a little bit. But if you ask me to draw some, I don't know, My Little Pony or something, well, I don't know. I probably struggle a bit with that. Have those come from there. I guess I didn't mention the fact that this is light from above, right? Like I think that's fairly obvious, but if you wanted to do something like this, obviously pick a light source, right? Like you're not going to be able to function without knowing that. I'm definitely going to need to add some nuance to the rendering on some of this stuff, but I draw a sick Twilight Sparkle. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Twilight Sparkle's my jam. I don't know who Twilight Sparkle is. but I'm guessing it's probably one of the ponies. Wait, I know the name of one of them. I think it's Applejack. I don't know if you can confirm that or not, but is that one of them? And I don't even know how I know that. It's just something I guess I heard somewhere. Are we still recording this? Yeah, we are recording. Okay, good. Because I gotta upload this later for those who can't tune in live. Applejack is right. All right, we did it. We nailed it. Now I want some Applejacks. You guys know that cereal? Do they even make that cereal anymore? Because I haven't been in the cereal aisle in a while. Kind of want to put some of the light down here on this terrain piece so we get a sense of the compositional balance this is going to create. I'm just going to block in something really quick here. See how like immediately it just kind of shifts the weight of this thing? But it also gives us a sense of the shadow he's casting. So it's just, yeah, you want to kind of pop this stuff in when you can, like early on, these big choices. In fact, we probably should put this door in, but what I'm thinking with this door back here, this gateway, is that I'm thinking we're going to go with like a slightly darker value. So Skeletor and his little mountain there are going to be the full black and white and maybe a color accent. And then everything behind, like the gateway and stuff, I think we'll go with one gray shade darker with that. I think that'll be nice because then I don't have to worry about it clashing with anything. Oh, and we can't forget about his sword here either, right? Okay. Cool. I feel like that's getting there. It's heading in an interesting direction. Yeah, it's still out there, Applejacks, and you ban yourself from cereal. You can't control yourself. I know. That's why I haven't been in the cereal aisle, because I will go right for the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and that will be like a one-night box of cereal. Boom, gone. It's devastating. There's going to be some like anthropologist at some point watching this video and like completely destroying my my animal skull anatomy here. Apologies, future anthropology viewer. I'm not being accurate here. Okay, I really want to put, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use another layer, and we're going to just put in a simple line for the staff, because I just want to see the vibe, but I don't want to impede my progress on everything else. That's probably, is that too thick? That might be too thick. That's what she said. Okay. I think that might work. Let's erase his hand out. See, if we were on paper, none of this would be possible, right? I'd have to get real sweaty. I'd have to try real hard and get this stuff planned properly. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the one true king. Yep. I'm glad you agree. It's hard to beat it, man. Something about that cereal. Maybe it's all the sugar. I don't know. That's my suspicion. It's a clue. By the way, if you guys are curious what these wheels are, it's just I'm using a Wacom tablet, and then you can set up these little, I don't even know what they call them, radial menus, I guess, and and you can assign, well, I assign different brushes to those because I don't like to go digging in the UI to get to that stuff, and I tend to fiddle around with different brushes all the time. So that's kind of how I'm doing that, in case you're seeing that and wondering what the heck that is. Because I've got my UI not showing here because it's, I mean, you guys don't want to see ugly UI windows. Okay, let's get this boot design figured out. I like this approach too because it kind of makes you feel like you're making progress really quickly. The light on dark scheme, whereas with dark on light, well, I don't know. I have a tendency to over define things because you sort of with the dark on light process, which is, I would describe that as a subtractive process, right, where the paper is light and then you're removing light. Everything starts out as visible in a world where there is infinite light, but in a world where there's infinite darkness, you are selectively deciding what is seen. So I don't know. It's probably purely psychological, but for me, there's something about that that's really nice, and I guess I should do this more often. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to tinker with this sort of look on stream, because the other thing about streaming art, guys, I'm sure if any of you have tried to stream art before or watched artists streaming, is that when it's a process that's really slow, when there's a lot of like, am I doing this on the staff layer? Okay, no, I'm not. Good. Whew, I thought I messed that up there. When you're doing an art process where there's this really slow progression, there's a lot of like super fine rendering going on. I mean, it's good for like a background video, a long play video, which is basically what I'm doing here. The point is just to have something on you guys can have in the background while you maybe are doing art. But if you're not seeing stuff evolve, it's I don't know. It's something to consider when you're talking about presentation or performance art in a way, right? Like streaming art and doing art live has its own unique considerations versus when you're just working with clients and cranking out stuff on your own. It kind of reminds me of if you guys see like street performers, or there's artists who do like really cool stuff with spray cans, right? Like spray paint and stuff, where they spin the canvas and they shoot the paint, and it's really dynamic and fun to watch. And there's a lot of stuff that does well on social media because of that. And so when you talk about doing like full rendered illustrations and stuff, that is something that I think tends to be perhaps a little bit better in a sort of a time lapse situation. And I wasn't interested in doing a YouTube channel to just record myself and then speed it up, and then you guys would watch it all happen in 10 minutes, right? Like I kind of wanted to just have a look that was interesting to watch, but was real time. It's all an experiment. I don't, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I thought this might be kind of an interesting approach. That was a really long way of just saying that. Okay, we were working on the boot, and then I got a little distracted. So let's see. I'll probably do some kind of plating on here. And I like the idea that he's got his toes exposed, because, that's really practical, right? What if What if he stubs his toe? It'd be a really easy way, a very embarrassing way to take out Skeletor, right? It's got kind of a cool vibe to it. Actually, it sort of reminds me of, if you guys know Mum-Ra from Thundercats, you know, he's got sort of like an open-toed. Actually, he has just wraps, right? But his toes are exposed. Either way, that's just, I think that's why that's reminding me of that. Another artist that you can look at for some inspiration on some of these sorts of simplified shapes is Mike Mignola, you know, the Hellboy guy. That's how most people know him, is from that. His work is so efficient in communicating. It's like disgustingly efficient at communicating, and he makes it look easy. You know, that's what all good artists do, is they make something that looks very simple feel very approachable, and then you try to do it and you realize, boy, this guy, he's got some special skills going on. I don't have those skills, but he's great to look at for that sort of efficient way of communicating with just very basic light and shadow shapes. But you know, this stuff right here, it's all very loose still. You know, when we get into refining this, I mean, you can really, you can get very particular about every stroke, indicating, you know, wrapping with the contour of the form, right? Like you can get, like you can kind of inject a calligraphy into every mark, and that's kind of what I'm shooting for. But you know, we're going to see how we do with that. But when you see this kind of stuff at a really high level, it's kind of amazing. I'm not intending on emulating like a Gustave Doré or a Bernie Wrightson or something here, but I'm okay with that too, right? Like you got to kind of find your own path. But I'm definitely inspired by artists like that. Their stuff is just incredible. So if you guys don't know the work of Bernie Wrightson, check him out, and in particular, check out his Frankenstein. Just insane. It's completely insane. So I'm sort of wondering if I want to do another knockback and then go in with a completely new pass on this, where I can really focus on the calligraphy of the marks. I'm not totally sure about that yet. I kind of want to maybe fiddle with this pass a bit more. Maybe we can just kind of get it to where it needs to go with just some push and pull. But that's something definitely to consider with your work, is should you fiddle with what's there, or should you just knock it back and just begin again? And that can always sound a little scary, because it sounds like it's a lot of work. Like, man, I just lost all that stuff that I was doing. That kind of bums me out. But it can be faster to just start again with all of that knowledge supporting your next pass. So we get here, we get into an area where it's like, well, I don't know how much light is really going to hit that spot. And if there's not a lot of light hitting that spot, then, but if we want it to still show up, then what do we do, right? Do we put another light in here? Do we sort of fake like a rim light behind? Do we put something bright behind it? And the other thing too is we might be able to imply some local value in here, but I'm being primarily driven by the lighting right now. But I guess the thing to mention is that if you're trying to work in this series of light and shadow shapes, don't be afraid to just switch into drawing mode, you know, where you're sort of outlining stuff, because sometimes that's just all you have to figure out what the heck is going on. I can't always think in just light and shadow. Sometimes I've got to sort of contour the work first and then work it. And that, I think, is one of the advantages of working dark on light, right? Is that you sort of think about outlines and contours first, whereas this is the inverse of that. And there's really pros and cons to every process, I think. But it's fun to imagine that there's some kind of holy grail process out there that, you know, everything just kind of clicks into place for you. But I have many different ways that I work. This is just, again, one way, and then I can do like full color illustrations if I need to. I can do thumbnails that are contour based or shape based. So if you get your fundamentals figured out, then it's kind of cool because you can pop in and out of a few different methods and hopefully be able to make it work. See, this is a situation where I sort of wish I was knocking this back and doing a new version, because I'd like to create some really fun, like, alternating hatching here to imply some subforms in the rock surfaces. You know, you can do something kind of like that. And that's a little tricky to do when this is already here, right? Because we got to kind of come in and then we got to erase it, and then we got to come in and like reestablish it, which I guess we could do. But yeah, again, it's just me thinking about, do I want to just start with a new pass? Or that's kind of fun though, isn't it? It's just kind of implied texture. This is like, I mean, you see a lot of people doing this kind of stuff, but it reminds me of, I think it's, is it Joseph? No, is it Joseph Clement Cole? There's an inker out there that's like just a maniac with this like alternating hatching stuff to imply form, and I love it. It's so satisfying to look at. But you gotta think about what you're trying to imply. I guess I'll just kind of come through here and start to carve out some subtle shapes. We'll see how this goes. So I'm kind of doing a new pass, but I'm being selective about it. This will be a fun experiment. Yeah, see, just like it's, you know, your eyes are seeing shapes now in there that you didn't see before, and that's kind of cool. And it's all through the, well, it's mostly through the alternating angles. You'll see this done too with clouds. In fact, maybe that's something that, well, I don't know. We'll see if we want to do that, but you can do stuff like sort of like implied cloud forms with these kind of alternating, radiating patterns. This stuff is really, really fun. But having said all of that, I also don't want to have this piece be like a 30-hour marathon piece. It's just intended to be a fun image. And I don't want to be rendering just these rocks for an eternity. So, again, we're not going to be doing like a Bernie Wrightson situation here. I don't even know how long it took him to do some of that stuff for Frankenstein, but I know that he really pushed himself super hard, and I think that I had heard somewhere that had actually kind of like affected his health, which is really a bummer. So, yeah, I guess just be aware of that stuff when you're really pushing yourself super hard. Think about taking breaks, and like don't forget what time it is to eat and get some sun and all that stuff. Okay, I think that's kind of as detailed as I want to get for this rock stuff. So that was a good little test. I was sort of doing that just to see, do I like the vibes we're getting there, and I think that's gonna work. So I'll just kind of continue that through here. But I'm going to simplify it a little bit over here, so that way we have some visual rest. And if you guys aren't familiar with the concept of visual rest, it just means that you're creating some areas in the image where the design is a little simpler, so your eyes have a break. And then it makes the areas with more detail feel a lot cooler in comparison. Because it's like it's a trap, right? Like if everything is detailed, then nothing feels detailed. Because it's just the human perception is all about comparative analysis. I mean, you guys know this probably from like colors, right? Like if your whole image is red and then you put some gray in the image, the gray is going to feel blue amidst all the red. And it's the same thing with detail. It's the same thing with any of those components of art. So just kind of be aware of that. Check yourself and see, am I being really too consistent about whatever it is that I'm making, and is that making my job a lot harder for no reason, for no raisins? You guys like raisins? I don't like raisins. I did as a kid though. All right. Okay, so we got it blocked in, and it maybe feels a little even in its overall implied value right now, but we can kind of go in and tinker with that, so we have more of a sense of the top versus the side. I'm kind of testing some of this stuff out here on these rocks because doing it with the character is obviously going to be more challenging. So I want to do it on this stuff first before I get too crazy with the main event. Well, I guess we better save our work. If you're working on art right now, save your work. Don't lose your stuff. It's the worst. Okay, zooming out here, I feel like we need a little breakup in this section. Okay, so this hand here. It's a little tricky, right? Because we got light coming from here, so the back side of the hand is sort of invisible. But we might end up adding a rim light if we feel like we're just losing too much, or if I can't find some way to create the silhouettes that I want. We can come in and we can mess with that. I've been messing with this front of this boot design for a while now, but I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it, dog. But yeah, the the mark making, the calligraphy, you can think of it almost like a textile, you know, like it's kind of like what some of this stuff is doing here, right? Where it starts to feel like it's intentional. It's creating a pattern, right? Like it's not just describing form, but it's trying to be visually appealing in its shape language. And you can start to treat everything like that. And you find artists that are really good at abstracting things. Just they know when to take advantage of that opportunity to be very calligraphic with something. Just one off the top of my head would be Sergio Topi. And he takes all these amazing risks, and he just knows when to lean into that calligraphic quality, that abstraction, and how to balance it with form description. And yeah, just that's like not a easy skill to have. It takes some guts, takes some skills, takes some time to feel like you can make those decisions, to just embrace it and say, yeah, this is just going to be a fun pattern. To know that you can just make something be a fun pattern, funny enough, is actually kind of hard, right? Especially if you're somebody who is like a perfectionist, or you're very literal in your interpretation of things, which is kind of how everybody starts with art. Is you're told, look at stuff and draw stuff the way you see it. And then after all kinds of time spent, you realize, well, maybe I can say something more than what it is that I'm looking at. And how do I say something more? There's so many ways, right? I mean, that's kind of a summary of art and expression through art. But hopefully what you're noticing here is as we get in, when we sort of refine these forms, they start to feel a little bit more immersive. That's the goal anyway. You guys will have to tell me if it's working for you or not. And we're not done with this face. Don't worry. We're gonna tinker with that a little bit too. Get it nice and refined. But I'm assessing if I want to be a little bit bolder about some of the shadow shapes. So here's one of those places where we have kind of like a flat, boring strap, and why not take the opportunity to introduce some fun calligraphy. Obviously, we have to be aware of how it's affecting our value, because as we erase, we're making it feel darker from a distance, but I'm not erasing that much, so we're not shifting it dramatically. But just having a little bit of that texture in there, and it's very intentional mark making to create that texture. It just kind of makes the image more interesting, right? And that's kind of what you're trying to weave in, but it's really hard to do that right out of the gate when you're still trying to craft what this image wants to be overall. You got to kind of like sneak up on it. This is like kind of a braid, really. This sort of alternating crisscross. But it's cool because in this sort of a presentation, you don't really care about whether it's describing a lot of form. You know, you kind of are okay with certain things feeling more flat. And in those things being flat, it makes the things that have dimension feel even more dimensional. It's that comparison thing again. And now I have to kind of resolve some of this scribbly nonsense that was around this region here. But I want it to feel like it's draping, I guess. Yeah. And where is it draping from? I guess it's pulling from, let's see, we can have it pull from the belt area, but when I'm designing this, though, I don't want it to be divided like this, where it feels like it's a continuation of the belt, these you know, belts that are hanging down. It needs to have a different breakup. And you can use little eyelets as a way to get some of that cloth feeling. I mean, if we had a model here, or like photographic reference, we could get really precise with these fold designs, but we're not really taking it to that level here. So we're just going to kind of use the overall visual language of folds and wrinkles to imply what we want to. And so here again, we can maybe introduce some calligraphy to the implied forms that we want to create. So, you know, these streams are 2 hours. At least that's the sort of current time frame that I'm setting for these. And we're about a hour and 20 minutes in, and I'm getting a sense for how long one of these might take in this sort of style. And I think we'll be able to probably get one of these done across 2 streams. So it'll be like 2 streams per image. That's just a rough idea I've got right now for it. So, yeah, if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, it'd be cool to see the continuation of this, I'll be streaming again next week at the same time for a couple hours, and obviously everything gets uploaded to YouTube. Earlier I was talking about obvious symmetry, and here's one of those cases where I do want it to feel like this side of the belt is equal to this side, so I've got to do a decent job of making that clear. So we're gonna flip to check our symmetry here. I feel like this area just gets a little too complicated. Yeah, I try not to zoom in super close because it's just not worth it. But it's hard to fight that urge. Let's hide that purple layer so we get a really good look at what we got going on here. Yeah, I think that's overall working pretty good. I want to get that sort of chest piece worked out a little bit better here. I look off over to the right sometimes because my OBS is over on the right, and looking at the image on a different screen. I don't know. This is just totally weird. It might just be me, but looking at the same image on a different screen gets me to look at the image in a different way. Like I see something that maybe I didn't before, and I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's interesting. Like if you guys are ever working on a multi-monitor setup, try opening a duplicate of your image on the other monitor and just, yeah, don't look at it, and then just glance over at it occasionally, and you might get a interesting second read on it, and might help you make a tricky edit that you were struggling with. There's more light in the kind of middle of his chest, so I want to get all the belt area feeling pretty bright there. Although this one's thicker, so I'm going to change the silhouette of this so it's obvious that it's different. Okay, I think I'm just gonna make these into like some kind of feather type situation, or have like an implied. Do I want to do it? I'm trying to decide which direction to do it in. Yeah, I guess I'll do it this way. Oops. So I think it might be safe for us to merge the staff in now to the image. I think we pretty much are in a good spot with that. Although maybe I'll tinker with it a little bit on its own first. Okay, I'm going to have to do that after I merge it so I can make sure I'm erasing everything. So, okay, we'll just merge it in. Just going to have to be a little careful about staying true to the edge. Okay, let's get this hand feeling more resolved. I'm gonna boost this hand up a little bit. Let's go a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. All right, we got about 15 minutes more of the stream for tonight, and I'd like to get this staff head figured out, so that way next time we come back to this, we'll be on a totally different stage of this image where we'll be working on the background and adding texture, you know, like fun little textures, and messing with some values. I think we'll try to put in that accent color. I'll put in the little border. I kind of want these things to maybe have a little border to them. I think what we might do is we might just scale him up a little bit because we don't really need to see as much of that ground. It's a little bit better framing for him. I feel like I need to offset this whole thing to the left because it feels like it wants to insert into the skull, back of the skull there better. And then maybe there's some like interesting little cloth elements hanging from the staff. Maybe there's some wraps around these. horns. As you guys can see, you could really just go nuts with the detail if you wanted to on this stuff. Like, you could just get this super, super polished. Yeah, which we will allow ourselves to do in select places where it feels like it has a good impact on the image. Oh, I guess we gotta resolve his toes too. I kind of forgot about that. We'll get to that. I think I'm gonna stretch him to be just ever so slightly taller. I feel like he's like a little bit squished feeling. So scale him up a little bit, and then yeah, let's get in here and get his gnarly Skeletor feet figured out. Something to kind of remember when you're doing a foot, if you want it to feel natural, is to think about how the small toes curl in. You know, you get like some kind of crunching going on there, and then the big toe more straight, or you can kind of pitch it in the opposite direction. But you know, giving things a little bit of natural curl can really help sell something as being more natural. It's kind of like when you have a person with a fist, and the fingers all feel too in line with each other. There needs to be that roll off. There needs to be that sort of rounding of the fingers. So it's like try and infuse that into your hands and feet, and it'll make them feel a little bit better. I may want a better pattern on this piece here. Maybe we'll go with something a bit louder. We have this sort of a diamond motif in other places on him now, so I think we can just kind of lean into that. But it's kind of fun seeing this stuff evolve, right? Like when we started out, it was, you guys remember all that's what we started out with, is just a little compositional doodle, just to see what kind of layout we wanted, and then we slowly started working at it and started to take shape. Let's turn off that underdrawing. That's really throwing my sense of value off there. Okay, so let's just do a quick little in the last 10 minutes here. Let's do a quick preview of kind of what we're thinking about with the background. And by the way, there's going to be, I think, some texture work that we'll do on this as well. I've got some brushes that have a fun kind of splattering look to them that I think we can add. So like this little little accents, especially where we want to go a little more energy to things. Energy, not like magic energy. I just mean like that the brush strokes make me feel a little bit kind of yeah, just a little extra hit here and there for some fun. It gives it a little bit of a traditional vibe too. So we'll play more with that before we finalize everything. But I just want to kind of show a little bit of what I'm thinking for that, and then for that background, what I'll do is I want to work in white still as I'm painting, so I can just do hit D on the keyboard to go to default black and white swatches. I don't want to have to go sampling grays. So what I'll do here is I'll make a new layer with the gray that I want the background to be, and I'll fill that in. That looks weird, right? And then I'll clip the gray to this layer that I'm painting on now. And so I'm painting with white, but you'll see that it's all gray. Right, so that's kind of a cool way for you to just work with default swatches, but in a color, is to just clipping mask the color ahead of time. So kind of what I'm thinking is that we have like some kind of a doorway back here. Maybe it's, oops, come on, rotate. There we go. Some kind of doorway back here. Maybe there's like, we could figure out the architecture next time, but I'm thinking that there's like a big skull up here. I know we kind of blocked this in the rough comp, but I just wanted to get a little bit further with this to start to feel how it's going to look. And then we'll try and imply maybe some kind of doorway back here. So I think that'll create like a nice frame for him. In the back there are some kind of crazy doors. There'll be some details to the doors. Maybe there's some like wood panels here. Or maybe actually that looks like it might be like iron gate sort of material there, which is kind of cool, right? Like that has kind of a, it feels a little more hardcore than wood, right? It feels a little heavier and like, yeah, just kind of fits his vibe. So yeah, I think we'll try something like that. And then I got to put his sword in. We definitely don't want to forget about that. So I'll just again put that in here. We'll have his sword doing its thing here. I think he's got, actually here I've got, oh, I have a picture of the old Skeletor over here, and it doesn't have his sword, of course, but I think it's got some kind of like a, I think it's got some kind of a shape like this, if I remember right. something like that. And then we'll give his staff some cool, like, like magic glow and symbols and everything, and we'll do a whole pass. And then I'm thinking about having the accent color be purple for his cloak, so we'll leave it black and white, but we'll put that in, and then we'll add the frame in there. So I think that's a pretty good first attempt at getting this guy blocked in. So I think a pretty solid 2 hours on this. Yeah, I'm liking it so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the stream. Yeah, if you're watching the vlog later, thanks for tuning in. Just remember to subscribe. I've got the free drawing guide if you subscribe. So definitely check that out if you're interested in just some fun drawing exercises that are wrapped in that fun fantasy RPG theme. I really enjoyed creating that, so I hope you guys will like that. Yeah, we'll catch you guys again for the next stream. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.